Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me tonight on Meaningful Conversations with Dr. Devin Oten. We'll get started here in a few moments. Hopefully, everyone has had a great week thus far, gotten over the hump day, getting ready to end the week strong. And I hope you have some great things planned for yourself and your family and friends this upcoming weekend. And quality of life is so important, spending time with those who we love, value, and cherish is so critically important, and we're working so much and so busy that we don't take the time to spend with those who truly matter. So I'm encouraging you to do that. Spend time with those who truly matter this weekend. Once again, thank you for joining me. We will get started here in a few moments. We're going to give folks a few minutes to jump on and join us. When you jump on, say hello. Say hello in the chat. All right, a few more moments and we'll get started on Meaningful Conversations. I think this is a very meaningful conversation we will have tonight. Make sure you say hello, greet me once you join. I have a lot of folks who will call me or text me the next day and say, "Hey, I was on. I didn't say anything. I'm just kind of sitting in the cut and just listening and enjoying the conversation." All right, a couple more moments and we're going to get started. Once again, thank you for joining me on Meaningful Conversations tonight. This wonderful Wednesday night. It's just another opportunity, right, at life, another opportunity to experience life, experience those who we care about, who we cherish, who we value. Hi, hi, cuz, how you doing? Hi, Oni, is it Oni? Not sure I'm pronouncing it correctly. Thank you for joining us. Alexa, pause. Once again, thank you for joining me tonight on Meaningful Conversations with Dr. Devin Oten. Tonight, we're asking the question, why don't we listen anymore? You know, we've become better at expressing our opinions, right? We're very opinionated now, this time and season in which we live. Of course, social media has helped that, has really carried that and played that forward. Everyone having an opinion, expressing their opinion. But I think in the process, we have begun to stop trying to understand each other's perspectives, right? Because we're so eager to express our opinion or our perspective. You know, everyone wants to be heard, but very few people are willing to truly listen. So families are talking, but they're not necessarily communicating. Friends are texting. That's a big thing, right? We text a lot in this generation. You know, friends are texting, but not connecting, right? I tell you, in that text, communication could get lost in translation. Communities are speaking, but not understanding. You know, I'm on a community a page on Facebook here where we live. And I tell you, there's always something being posted on there, and then someone jumping in and misunderstanding and misinterpreting what was being said. And a lot of times, you know, those miscommunications could be avoided, or those uh, arguments, if you will, or those disagreements could be avoided if we had just talked to each other, right? You see something on the text thread and say, you know what? Let me DM or call this neighbor and say, hey, maybe I misunderstood what you were saying. If you were saying this, that may not be the case. It may be this, or consider thinking about it this way. So, we're speaking, through text and email and all these different venues, but we're not necessarily understanding each other. So in this episode of Meaningful Conversations, we explore why listening has become a lost art. Yes, I believe listening, if it has not become a lost art, it is becoming a lost art. How poor communication will damage relationships, and how becoming a better listener can transform our homes, our communities, our workspaces and workplaces, and our churches and our places of worship. Because sometimes I believe the greatest act of love isn't speaking. The greatest act of love can be listening, or telling someone, I am listening, and actually showing them that you're actually listening to what they have to say. So, welcome back to another episode of Meaningful Conversations. Tonight, we want to ask a simple question. Why don't we listen anymore? I want you to think about that for a moment. Why don't we listen to each other? Well, we can't wait once somebody finishes speaking. We're not even listening to what they're saying. We just can't wait for our opportunity to do that double Dutch, to jump in and share what we have to share and say what it is that we have to say, get this stuff off of our mind, get it off of our chest. And we didn't even hear the other person or other person's perspective. So think about it. We're surrounded by communication. I mean, we are in a communication age. We have smartphones. We're communicating through podcasts, through social media, television, right? Text messages, notifications, DMs. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, the avenues that we have where we can communicate with each other. So we have more ways of communicating than any generation before us. Yet many people today, in this overly sensitive time in which we live, this overstimulated situation in which we see all the time, we have more ways to communicate than any generation before us. Yet many people have never felt more misunderstood and more lonely. Hi, Dr. K. Good to see you. Yes. So we have all of these tools to communicate, yet a lot of people feel so very misunderstood and so very lonely. Isn't that something? You could be communicating with someone on social media and through text all day, and yet still experience loneliness, still experience this great emptiness, right? Still feel misunderstood on some level. So what's going on is we don't feel heard. That may be the problem. So let's talk about it. We're listening to respond, not to understand. How many conversations? Think about it. Even today, you may have had a conversation or several conversations today. How many conversations have you been in where you already knew that the other person wasn't listening? I mean, you pouring your heart out, you telling them some stuff that you really understand. You have become intimate with some knowledge, some wisdom. You trying to share this, and the person on the other end, they're not listening. Yes, Dr. K, not a real connection. Yeah, we got all of this communicating going on with no connection, no real connection, or connection of substance, right? So, they're just simply waiting for their opportunity, waiting for you to stop talking so they can jump in, so they can prove their point. They got a point to prove, and they don't want to hear what you have to say. Their mind is already made up, right? And there's a saying that my cousin Alicia says all the time. She says, you can't counsel a made up mind. I want you to think about that for a minute. You cannot counsel a made up mind. And that is so very true. I learned that as a senior pastor, right? I'm in these these counseling sessions with these couples who are looking to break up. They're looking to separate, divorce. They got some issues, and you could tell very early on that one or even both of the partners, the spouses, the couple, both of them have already come to that place of no return, right? That you can't counsel a made up mind. You could talk to you blue in the face, but if one has already made up their mind, hey, I've already passed that threshold, that breaking point, and there's no coming back from it, right? So a lot of times when we're communicating, and this is something I used to share all the time with our church congregation, not just in counseling sessions, that there were three primary reasons why people separate, split up, and or divorce. It's money, the lack thereof, the mismanagement thereof. It's communication, the lack thereof, or the miscommunication or misunderstanding in communication. And number three, family interference, right? Some bad communication coming in from those outside of that particular relationship. So a lot of times we just simply waiting to jump in. We're waiting for you to stop talking. You waiting for me to stop talking. You didn't hear anything I said. I didn't hear anything you said because I'm trying to jump in and prove my point. I got to defend myself on some level because what you said, it pricked me. It upset me. It disturbed me in some way. It could have been true. And, we use that scapegoat that, hey, you didn't say it kindly or you didn't say it the right way, right? And of course, there is a lot of substance to that. We can't just go in, throwing hammers and swords around, right? And cutting people up and harming people. But on the other end, we got to start taking accountability and saying, you know what? Is it the truth, right? And if it's the truth, we got to consider the truth. We got to begin to adjust and align with the truth and make changes, right? So, listening is not waiting for your turn to speak. Listening, check this out. Listening is making someone feel valued, right? When you listen to me, you make me feel valued. You validate me by listening to me. When I listen to you, I make you feel valued. I validate you and your opinion and your perspective and how you feel and how you see this, right? So remember that listening is not waiting for your turn. Listening is making someone feel like they are truly valued, right? So how many arguments, think about it, how many arguments could have been avoided if one or the other would have just simply listened first? Just listen, right? So many arguments could be avoided. Hey, good to see you, my brother Dennis. Good to see you joining us. Yes, Alicia said those are the three reasons. Yes. No matter how you slice it up, when you come back to it, those will be the three reasons why people split up, separate, and or divorce. So that question again, how many arguments, think about it, could be avoided if someone would just stop and say, you know what? I don't need to be in disagreement. I need to listen. Let me just listen to understand what the other party is feeling, thinking, or trying to express to you, as opposed to you always trying to have the answer, always trying to be right, always trying to get your point across, always you have the one that has to be heard instead of listening because the other person needs to be heard, and that's how they feel valued. So another thing we need to consider, technology has changed the way we communicate. We text instead of talking. The younger generations especially, man, they prefer to text. They could be in the room right next to each other instead of just saying, hey, come in here for a minute, or I'm gonna come in there and talk to you for a minute. No, they'll just text each other. So the way we communicate has changed dramatically, right? Man, my generation, we have seen technology take us literally from, if you want to call it that, the dark ages to the period of enlightenment, right? When I was growing up, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have mobile phones. We didn't have smart devices, right? We had the dial phones. And then later on, we had the phones where you could press the button and the phone was plugged into the wall, right? And usually, in a lot of homes, you only had one phone, so you had to share that phone. I had to share that phone with my older sister, right? She had people she wanted to talk to. I had people I wanted to talk to. So things have changed. We text instead of talk now. We post instead of processing. We comment instead of conversing. Don't we do that a lot in social media, right? We will get on those platforms and we will make a comment, but we're really not involved in the conversation. We're not really trying to push the conversation forward. Yes, yes, Dr. K, miscommunication causes wars. Absolutely. Yes. So we comment instead of actually trying to converse and move the conversation forward. We tend to react, excuse me, before we even understand what's going on. How many times does that happen? You walk into a conversation and you reacting on something you heard and you didn't hear everything in its totality, right? So we react before we understand what's going on. Technology, it connects all of these devices, but it does not automatically connect hearts. Okay? These devices are connected by technology, but it doesn't automatically connect our hearts. We just commenters and people, getting involved in stuff that we probably have no business getting involved in, making comments about stuff that we really don't even have a good knowledge base to be making comments about. And that has caused so much miscommunication and so much misunderstanding, right? So communication in this time in which we live, it's become at light speed, right? It's faster. Communication is fast now. It moves at the speed of light, but it doesn't mean that communication is better. It makes us move past perspective. It makes us move past making each other feel validated. So everyone wants to be heard, the bottom line. Everyone wants to be heard. Everyone wants to know, do I matter? Does my opinion matter? Does my story matter? Listening answers those questions without saying a word. You don't even have to answer those specific questions with the people that you love and the people that you really want to show that you value them. If you just listen, you tell them that they matter. If you listen, you tell them that their opinion matters. If you listen, you tell them that their story is matter. And that's without you saying you matter, you're important to me. No, listening to them brings value to them and validates them as a person, as a human being, right? It brings out our humanity. So people may forget your advice. This is something I had to learn over the years. I learned this very specifically being a pastor. People may forget your advice. They rarely forget how you make them feel. Did you hear that? People may forget your advice. They'll forget advice all day long, but people never forget how you make them feel. Okay, I want you to think about that as we're talking about the communication and the lack thereof, or the misunderstanding or the miscommunication tools that we use, or attempts that we use. If we just learn that making people feel valued, man, that would change our country, right? It would change the world if we made the human next to us, the person next to us, feel valued. So what does listening do? Listening builds trust. Now, a lot of this that I'm sharing with you tonight, these are things that I studied in my doctoral program in strategic leadership, and how leaders develop and how to help leaders develop, how to train leaders. And good leaders, good to great leaders, are great listeners. So, because we learn as leaders that listening builds trust. If you don't listen to your followers, they will not trust you. They will not follow you, right? So listening will build trust, whether it's a marriage, a relationship, a partnership, a friendship in the classroom. I'm now teaching and in the classroom daily, at your church, a business that you may be involved in, you're starting, or you work for, or you manage, or you're a director of some sort, or in a community. Trust is built in your community when you learn to listen to people. Politicians are good at that, right? They will come to your community. They'll have a meeting, a town hall, and they want to listen to your concerns, listen to the things that bother you in the community. That's all designed, right? Whether they plan to enact or act on the things that you're concerned about or not, what they're trying to do is they're trying to build trust by listening. So remember that too. You want to build trust with someone, learn to listen to them, learn to ask questions, learn to get them to talk about what really matters to them, what inspires them, what motivates them, what concerns them, what are their pain points, right? And in that dialogue, in that conversation, trust me, a door will be open for you to be able to share what some blind spots may be in that person's life. And doing that makes them feel valued. So trust grows when people feel heard. They begin to trust you and trust you and trust you more because you listen to the things that matter to them. Leadership isn't just about giving direction. You don't just, as a leader, you don't just give direction. You got to get your hands dirty, right? Leadership is about creating understanding, creating clarity, right? Great leaders know how to create understanding and they know how to create clarity in a situation that may not be very clear or may be foggy or confusing. So the best leaders, they ask great questions. They don't just give great speeches. I know that's what we see in movies all the time. This great leader will come up and give this great awe-inspiring speech and message, and rally the troops and get everybody moving in the same direction. It's not just that. Great leaders ask great questions. And jump in at any time and share your thoughts on this. If you have any questions, please drop that in the chat as well. I didn't get a chance to share this early, but if you have not gone out to our YouTube page, Meaningful Conversations with Dr. Devin Oten, and subscribed, hi, Cousin Teresa. If you haven't subscribed to the page, please go to the page, subscribe, hit that bell so you're alerted when we go live or when I drop some content or video on my YouTube page. The past couple of weeks, I've gone on Facebook and conducted a brief Bible study. Excuse me, I didn't get a chance to do it today. Had a lot of stuff going on today, but looking to do that a lot more. So please go out, comment, review, share the page so we can continue to grow the channel and that we get more people seeing our content if you think this is good content. So how can we become better listeners? This is a key and critical part of our talk tonight, our conversation tonight. Some of you may be asking, okay, I hear what you're saying. I need to become a better listener. What does that mean? What does that look like? How do I become a better listener? Number one, when you're communicating with someone and they are talking, once they finish talking, pause before you respond, right? Take your time. Think about what they said. Consider what they said. Pause. Okay, there's nothing wrong with pausing. Okay, it doesn't mean anybody is slow. It just means that you are more thoughtful. You're more considerate. So pause before responding. Think about what you're going to say before you respond. And maybe before you respond, the next thing you need to consider is ask questions for clarity, right? It may have been some things that were communicated that you were not quite clear about. You didn't quite understand the point. You didn't quite understand where the other person was taking the conversation, right? So ask questions like, okay, you said this. Uh, was I hearing you correctly? Did you mean this? Because that's how I interpreted it. Yes, that's exactly what I meant. Or no, that's not what I meant. This is what I meant. See how that will eliminate a lot of confusion, a lot of miscommunication. We can have a real meaningful conversation because I stopped, thought about it before I responded. Then I asked questions, clarifying questions, just to make sure we're both on the same page. The other thing, oh, this is going to be a tough one for a lot of you. This is going to be a tough one. Put down the phone. Boy, we walk around with that phone in our hand, in our pocket, you know, on our side. I mean, we will not go 10 feet, 5 feet from that phone. You want somebody to feel valued and that you're listening to them? Put that phone down. How many conversations have you and I been in, and you, me, or the other person, every few seconds, they're looking at their phone? Yeah, looking at the phone. Yeah, okay, No, 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 no. Show me that you are focused and paying attention to our dialogue. Put down the phone. Make eye contact, right? Don't be looking all around and, just, distracted or maybe disturbed. Make eye contact. Listen without trying to prepare a rebuttal. Boy, this is a good one because we get in these conversations and we are listening. And the whole time we're listening, we're trying to figure out what are the words we are going to use to rebuttal what is being said. No, listen. You're not an attorney, a lawyer in a courtroom, debating another attorney. That's not what this is. Trying to win points with the jury. That's not what this is. If we are truly trying to fix communication and learn how to listen to each other and listen with curiosity, be curious about what's being said, right? Listen with curiosity, listen with compassion, listen with empathy, listen with, this term we hear all the time, emotional intelligence, right? Put yourself in the shoes of the other person, try to feel and sense what they feel and sense. Most importantly, listen to understand, not to win a debate, an argument, or win the conversation. It's not about winning, right? And we need to be in a frame of mind where everyone wins. I feel valued, you feel valued. We have eliminated misunderstanding. We have eliminated those tenets that cause miscommunication, cause division, cause strife, and all those other things. Yes, Dr. K, yes. Lower your defenses and be objective. Yeah, and you might learn something. Absolutely, yes. So listen to understand, not to win. Now, of course, I always have a faith perspective as we go through our conversation. And one scripture I wanted to share tonight comes from James, the book of James, chapter 1, verse 19. And it says, everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger. Everyone should be quick, fast to listen, slow to speak, slow yourself down, and slow to become angry. Boy, we got a quick trigger, boy. It just takes a certain word, right? It just takes a certain person to say something. And boy, we ready to snap, we ready to go off, we ready to give somebody the business. But the book of James, chapter 1, verse 19 says, everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. Imagine what our homes would be like if we just followed this text every single day. Imagine what our homes would be like. Imagine what our relationships would be like if we just followed this one verse, or think about following this one verse, implementing it each and every day. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. Imagine what our churches would look like. We got people in church mad at each other, not speaking to each other, upset with each other, in all places in the church. In our communities, we're mad, because someone said something. And even in our nation, how would our nation be? How different would our nation look if we practice this one verse every single day? Now, as is our custom as well, a few questions I want to pose to you all. Number one, when was the last time you truly felt heard? You can jump in the chat and share that. But of course, I want you to be thinking about this. When was the last time you truly felt like you were heard? Like the person you were having a conversation with truly heard you, understood what you were saying, and really contributed very meaningfully to that conversation, to that interaction, to that dialogue. Think about that. When was the last time you truly felt heard? Let's strive to make people feel heard each and every day. Let's strive to do that. Another question. What gets in the way of good communication? What do you think gets in the way of good communication? Of course, we've talked about a lot of those things tonight that cause good communication to be null and void in a lot of interactions that we have with people. What are some of the things that get in the way? People trying to prove their point, right? People want to be right. No one wants to be wrong. No one wants to be accountable. Everyone, wants the roses, right? But guess what? There's thorns on those roses when you go out there and pick them. We've talked about this as well. How has technology changed the way we listen? How has it changed? A lot of times we really don't even listen when it comes to technology, right? We're on social media and we see something and we jump in and comment, not having the full story, the full background. Last question. What is one's relationship in your life? What's one relationship in your life that could improve if you simply listen more? One relationship. Think about that. One relationship that if you just listen more, it would improve. I know a lot of us, it's our spouses, right? Our partners in life, right? The one we should be listening to, right? The one we should be expressing and showing that we value them each and every single day. All right. So there's one thing we can do this week. I want to challenge you. One thing. Choose one person in your life, a spouse, a child, a friend, a coworker, colleague, a neighbor, a family member, and have a conversation where your goal isn't to give advice. It's not to give advice. Dr. K said your ex. Yes, the ex. Get it. I get it. Your goal is to simply listen. Simply listen. Ask questions. Be present. Dr. K says this all the time, be intentional and be present. Be intentional and be present when you have this conversation. And resist, please resist the urge to interrupt the other person. Resist that urge. Take that urge out, throw it away. Okay? Your goal is to just listen. And you're going to show that you're listening by asking questions. You're going to be present. You're going to be intentional to be present. You're going to resist interrupting. And I guarantee you, you may discover that being heard is one of the greatest gifts that you can give someone. Did you hear me? Someone being heard is the greatest gift you could give someone this week. Just letting them know that you hear them, showing them that you value them, showing them that you're willing to invest in them, your time, your energy, your effort, just by listening. I tell you, it's so many times I've been with people, talked with people, and they may have had a desire at the beginning of the conversation. And when it was all said and done, they're like, this was better than what I intended to get out of this interaction, because I feel heard, I feel valued. Man, it's lifted a load off of me, right? And sometimes it's very difficult to do because some people are just so negative, so toxic, bad energy, right? It's hard to help them, coach them around some of those bad tendencies that they use in communication. So I want to give you a couple things to think about before we close out. And like I said before, if you haven't had a chance to go out, to our YouTube channel, Meaningful Conversations with Dr. Devin Oten, please go out, subscribe, hit the bell so you're alerted when we go live, when I drop content or videos. Like, comment, make sure you share with your friends, family, your colleagues if you feel that this is valuable content and a good use of time, right? So remember this, listening doesn't mean agreeing. I want to make sure I get that out, because some people are sitting there feeling, well, if I'm showing that I'm listening, that may mean that I'm agreeing. No, it does not mean that you are agreeing. It means respecting another person's humanity. That's all it means. It means that you respect that other person's perspective. So people don't always need solutions. Oh my goodness. Some of us, we've had to be the one to have answers to a number of life's questions and problems. And it has oriented us or developed us into a place where we are always trying to come up with solutions and advice for people. But when you become a true listener, people don't always need solutions. Sometimes they just simply need someone willing to hear them, right? You've heard that before. And remember, the strongest relationships aren't built by talking more. Strong relationships are not built by you talking more. They're built by you listening better, more effectively, more efficiently, right? So communication begins with words. I want you to remember this. Communication begins with words. Connection, Dr. K, you mentioned this earlier. We're not connecting. Connection begins with listening. So communication begins with words. Connecting begins with listening. So before we leave tonight, if you have some comments you want to drop in the chat, please do so. I want to be able to share that with everyone. But before we leave tonight, I want to challenge you with one question. Who in your life that you can think of right now needs to know, not that you have the right answer, but that you're willing to hear their heart? Could be a kid, could be a grandkid, right? Maybe healing can begin if we think about that. Not with another speech, not with another conversation or just a conversation. And maybe starting a good, well-balanced conversation begins with one simple decision that you make. And that is just to truly listen to the other person, right? So thank you for joining me tonight. If you have some things you'd like to share in the chat, please jump in. We've gone over. I wanted to be off in about 30 minutes. Now we're right up on 39 minutes. But thank you for joining me again tonight for another meaningful conversation. Michelle sends her love. If today's discussion encouraged you in any way, challenged you, or reminded you of someone who needs to hear it, please share this episode with them. Let's become people who don't just speak with wisdom and knowledge, but who listen with compassion and empathy. Until next time, my brothers and sisters, stay focused, stay faithful, and keep becoming who you are called to be. Okay? Have a good night, everyone. See you next week. Finish the week strong. Love you much. And thanks for joining me tonight on Meaningful Conversations.